I don't know what to say to you today. I want to go deeper than I'm normally able to, without effect, without, I'm not really proud of myself right now. So I'm coming from that space. I'm not handling certain things as well as I want to. Things are dying right now. A lot is dying. I am not an expert in the prediction of sort of active current events, like the exact things that will happen. Like I can't tell you who's going to win the Super Bowl. And I can't even tell you who's going to win elections. These aren't my strong suits. And you might think that they would be. But truly, I pay attention to deeper forces. And the deeper forces I pay attention to are the subcurrents that matter the most. The simple version we return to again and again and again. A lot is dying, a lot is being born. You can tune in to what is being born early. And when you do, it accelerates the death of the practices, the patterns, the institutions, the songs of the life that used to be normal to you, to us. And so there's this devastating connection, or it's devastating at first, where as you pay more attention to the new, you actively induce, you catalyze the transition. Now, if you ground yourself, as you ground yourself in the trust that this is catalyzing the transition itself, the trust in a new way of being, this works much better because you know what you're resting on, you know what to hold in your heart. But there's this incredible in between where you're reaching, you're going through moments of powerful transition, and then it slips away, and perhaps the intensity of the deaths overwhelms. And you experience the deaths with a lack of faith, with a trepidation, with a doubt that unsettles your center. I doubt myself because I'm not doing this as well as certainly not as well as I want to. And yet, as I tune in again and again, I get, keep going, get up again, and get up again, and get up again. It is really difficult to be present in this change, and it absolutely is worth being present a little early. Welcome, wildflowers. Welcome to the end of the world. For purposes of this conversation, let's understand the world as the collective human understanding of the world we share. And it's primarily human. The reason this matters is because the earth, as we could understand it, is everything that's here. Everything, all of it, including everything we don't see, recognize, witness, and participate in. And then Gaia is the consciousness of this space itself. Now, in time, you'll learn to appreciate that the consciousness is the most important thing going on here. But there's this transition from the material that we can recognize the earth as the grounded in the material. Let's just think of it that way. Earth, what we touch. Now, this is not all that is the earth, as we've just defined. And yet, start there. Now, the world is just the human, the collective human awareness. The world is ending. This is not a gimmick. This is dramatic. Because as the world ends, everything we know of as normal and real comes into question. And we're going to go through another decade of just incredible doubt of what will succeed, what will thrive, what will make it through the transition, and what will not. Right now, I'm going through a very humbling, painful disconnection from a community that was a core to my life when I was younger. Now, I only want to share this to the extent it's healthy, and I believe it can be extremely healthy. We all have been a part of things that will not make it through this change. And the way we retain our memory to what we've been a part of really matters. Because at a certain level of activation, there's a return to whatever we're holding as active inside of us. When we move through life and simply leave things without necessarily transforming our relationship to them, they are continuing to take something from us, or they are continuing to be something of us, even if it's time to let them go. I have held a great degree of optimism and what I thought of as love in wrestling with the forces around me, the people around me, the communities around me, and constantly doing my best to shift myself into a positivity about the hope that we could still be connected, still be friends, still work together, that my success can extend to the people I've shared life with in multiple phases. When I was younger, I didn't do my best in school. I deeply resented school. I deeply resented school. I felt that there was a control over my mind that was it was a violation. I reacted like it was a violation, and it was incredibly difficult for me to come to terms with because on a certain level I received a lot of judgment that there was something wrong with me that I would be fighting so hard. Like, what, why are you so angry? And so I can't pretend that I was always fully confident in this assessment, but I was certainly driven by a deep sense that they were violating my sacred presence by forcing me to think with them, by forcing me to move with them, by forcing me to change the focus of my time and attention. This remains a difficult challenge to hold in the world, right? Like, so many of us spend so much of our lives forced to think about different things that it seems preposterous on a certain level. And yet, without aggression, I say it's completely unacceptable to dominate people's mind in this way. There is something sacred moving through humanity, being born. And when this comes first, something works, something beautiful works. When it can't come first, when something's in the way of the sacred motion of spirit moving through us, we live in this horrible tension. And I offer you that this is the tension between Gaia's calling for us, the crystalline consciousness, and the energies of the karmic world. Now, the world as it's been has been mired in, it's essentially been a pain body. The pain body. What this is a reactive substructure of karma, the karmic ocean of the past, momentum of forces that we don't accept, much less want. This is dying. This is what is dying. But as it dies, it surges to the surface. And this is what we're looking at. Now, this is happening all over the world. I'm not going to grace any particular person or institution with much attention. All over the world, dominance is attempting to assert itself in fear of the change. Now, this makes it look like everything's getting worse. It's not. This is actually happening because they feel their end. I cannot tell you the exact script for what will happen, how this will play out. I just know that the subcurrents that fuel these dominance patterns fuel the pain body. These dominance patterns are coming out of the pain body. It's what happens when humans fight over primacy, control. And humans only fight over control in a world ruled by the pain body. When you're in tune with a loving earth, a crystalline consciousness, you're not hiding from anything. There's nothing to overcome. There's nothing to defeat in the same way, certainly not within yourself. When you engage pain within yourself, you can be committed to engaging it as a force to heal, something to heal. And when you do it this way, you're owning responsibility for it. So it's not gone, but the act of feeling compassion and intentionality to heal for yourself is dominance. It's ironic. It is the most beautiful and elegant form of dominance possible. And it begins with this Christ compassion, this Christ-like compassion. You forgive the pain body for trying to hurt you, hate you, beat you. You come from a presence and awareness that there's no justice, there's no joy, there's no health in engaging it like an equal. The pain body is not an equal. The pain body is suffering. It's in pain. This force that surges to the surface and tries to create dominance from within pain is in pain. Now, it can experience temporary relief from pain by being dominant over others in some form, even by being dominant over itself. There is a certain degree of victory when someone's in great pain, but they find the resolve to surge to the surface and do some great deed. There's a beauty in this. But when you take this same dynamic and extrapolate it to how we treat each other, and someone else does something that hurts you, so you seek to dominate them, this is endless. This is karmic war. This is, at best, competition in a form where everybody's not going to win. It's not a loving way to seek success in victory over others. Now, I think a lot of people are learning this, and at the current state, we're relatively incapacitated because there's a partial awareness of this truth. And so when pure pain body dominance creatures come to the surface and take over, seize power in a certain form, it's like we have an intrinsic hesitation. How do we respond to them? Now, the sacred truth is that there's something happening here there's a beauty to it. The pain body presence in many that would seek dominance comes out. So even in those we think of as the best of people, the kindest, the most loving, ourselves, we might surge through with rage and frustration that someone is seeking to dominate us. It's a natural instinct. But what we have to be able to do is hesitate enough to pray, truly, to pray with the question, what is there for me to do? For me, what is it best for me to do to facilitate this transition? If you pay attention, even a little bit of attention to what's happening in the world, you can fill your mind with a litany of seemingly different disastrous things that are occurring right now. Now, I could have done this for you 30 years ago. I could have created a feed of thoughts in some form that showed you disasters everywhere. We could have a discussion about whether things are mathematically worse on the surface, like whether there are worse fears now than there were 30 years ago. Certainly depends on the color of your skin. And I don't think that this is a primary question. I think the primary question is, how can you use the chaos as inspiration for the prayer? What can you do? What is it for you to do? When you engage reality in this way, every single seemingly different challenge to your life, to your expression, to your peace, to your mind, fuels the same prayer. What is it for you to do? I learned this about 6 years ago when I wrestled with these same forces coming to the surface in my country, the United States. And for a while, I really struggled. I was like, oh, I should do this, or should I do this? And it felt like playing whack-a-mole. Like in every direction, there was something to worry about. There was something to fear. There's something to be outraged about. Outrage is rarely the best response. Rarely. I think there's a place for it. There's a divine place for destruction. But if you attempt to invoke it in the wrong context, in the wrong moments even, it's purely making the world a worse place. So to be present enough to make this prayer the first response to bad news. They did this. They did this. They did this. Rather than running around left, right, up, down, being afraid of all the different potentials. You take a pause, you step back, and you say, what is it for you to do? Now, let me tell you a couple things that happen. First of all, you start to witness the subcurrents more honestly. And the subcurrents reveal to you the ways in which these pain body dynamics are happening. So for instance, for decades, I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I don't really remember the end of the 70s much. I was born in 74. It was really, really, really normal to envision Russians as the enemy. Movie after movie, show after show, they were the most violent, most terrifying people. Now, you can have a discussion about whether this is objectively true or not. I mean, certainly there's a reputation there that is not unearned by patterns of behavior in history. But you can also look a little deeper and recognize if I spend a lot of time taking my internal sense of bad. So I have an internal darkness. It's mine. It's mine. It's my darkness. If you were to take some kind of energetic ability, well, this is how I live now. I see energy. I can look at you and see the energy that is moving inside your body. And I can see whether it's externally connected or internally connected. It's kind of cool. So to me, this is an objective thing. Now, if you are internally generating negative black energy and it's black because it is fundamentally out of tune with the light of this world. Now, this is an unfortunate interplay with how we treat racial dynamics. But let's just be present with the fact that we're really only assessing what energy is yours and what energy is actually someone else's. Now, I've said this multiple times and we will say it for years. You need to hear this. You need to know it. You need to reinforce it. If you are generating an energy, it's yours. When this energy gets generated, if my attention gets drawn to it and I think the Russians might nuke us, that is out of tune with the reality of the world. Now, I'm not assessing whether this might be a real fear or not. That's not the point. If I'm triggered to think about nuclear war by my own internal density, what I'm doing is externalizing my own karma. When I externalize my own karma, that has an impact. It has an impact. My thought form out there, the bad guy is over there, is created. I create a little pocket of energy and throw it out into the world. Now, I'm not letting anybody off the hook. Nobody has to eat that energy. People eat those kind of energies. People eat it. They consume it, they take it in, and they ride it. They're not free from responsibility for what they become. The Russians have allowed almost 1 million of their own young men to just be thrown as fodder. They have a history of just like they win by just swamping. They just keep, they don't stop. They don't have protests by the mothers of the soldiers that effectively work. There's something going on in their culture that's different in many ways. but it functions in relationship to the rest of us because we spent decades knowing them as the greatest bad guy. If we want to change the dynamics in the world, the first thing we need to do is recognize the difference between what's in here and what's out there. And please don't get lost. Stick with us here. We're doing this in a different way. Thoth teaches this. There's a difference between energy that you generate and energy that's external. There is a real breakdown happening in the world right now. We might suffer through worse disasters than I want. Nonetheless, we can do a lot to change it by being deeply present with what is our own. And it really and truly does start with intentionality. So don't you just sit there and going, well, but I don't know how to do that. I can't see energy like Daniel. You make the prayer every day. Show me what is mine. Show me what I can do to heal. Oh, how do you do that? Learn the key ring. Memorize the key ring. Heart, crown, throat, sacral, nose tip, solar plexus, diamond eye, lungs, root, chin, navel, third eye, heart. One breath. Inhale, heart. Inhale, crown. Sacral. Nose tip. Solar plexus. Diamond eye. Lungs. Root. Chin. Navel. Third eye. Heart. I just separated myself from external energy. I just tuned myself into me. When you do this, you tune into yourself. Once you've tuned into yourself, you maintain the commitment to take full responsibility for yourself. So now everything you feel for a little while after that window, you can trust is you. Now, in reality, any consistent imbalance in your own chakra will magnetize negative energy from the outside, which will give you yet another opportunity to project and externalize your conception of what's happening. But when you know how to clear the slate, it's like a fogged up window. This is only going to work for people in the cold. When your window fogs up, you can smooth it out and push away the fog and see through it for a little while. It's going to fog up again if it's cold and you're breathing. But for a little while, you get this window. Like when the water, there's a lot of like algae in the water. You can brush it away with your hand and you're going to get a little clear space for a while. The algae will slowly kind of refill it up, but for a while you have a clear space. You can see your reflection. Choose another metaphor. The point is you have the ability to brush aside the confusion and delusion and the active connection of prana from the world to you. And in that window, you act with your thoughts. So you're taking the action of asking as a prayer. Right after that 1 minute, you're saying, what can I do? And then you do it. Now, at first, this might be rudimentary. First, just try to see which chakra draws your attention. Shoulders. Okay, how do I spend shoulders, boundaries, time? How I spend my time and how I draw my boundaries. So I'm going to do something soon because I know exactly what I need to do. And it's hurting my heart. I'm going to do it soon. So the principle here is simple. We're brushing aside everything so we can, when we're feeling intense fears about the world, life, you brush aside everything and you ask, what can you do to take full responsibility for your energy? Ready? What I got in that moment, first I just registered which chakra. I get lungs. Then I breathe with the lungs, and I have practiced this for years, so I get a little more presence. When I was young, I didn't do my best by academic standards. I resented how they controlled my mind. So by the end of high school, I didn't have the best grades. I had pretty good tests, but I didn't have the best grades, and I had no teachers. This is going to break my heart. I had no teachers willing to give me a recommendation. So I went to a school that was perhaps not as good as I could have gone to. But when I visited, I loved it. And I loved it, and I loved the sense that I was stepping out of the rat race, so to speak. Like, I wasn't trying to go to the best Ivy League school like all my friends. I had over 40 good friends who went to Ivy League schools. It was like absurd. And that's the kind of school. I went to a very rare school. And I spent the next 4 years, I really enjoyed it. I played a lot of leadership roles. I loved it. I loved running meetings, making speeches. I really enjoyed bringing people out. I enjoyed creating space for people to speak their truth, to share what they were best at. I liked facilitating. I liked planning. I liked meetings. When I got out of school, I went to New York City and I got a job with alumni, people from the college. Within 2 years, within a year, really, I started to get psychic messages. I started to connect with what ultimately became a channel to Thoth. One of the first things that happened was I remembered planning this. I remembered agreeing to this life, to the role and responsibility I would take on. And it was very, very difficult for me to accept that all of the people around me pulled away. They basically thought I was crazy. They avoided what I had to share. They shifted my attention. They tried to tell me to get back to normal. They tried to tell me to calm down. And none of them are in my life anymore. Right now, I'm coming to terms with the fact that I've always had this kind of desire to succeed in a way that I could go back to that school and say, see, I was real. I was right all along. And there's love in it. There's a little self-righteousness for sure, like proving myself. But like it's more like boyish in a certain sense. Like I want them to believe in me. It's very confusing having access to divine insights on this level and still having the presence of my personality, the pain that people didn't believe me. And I'm letting that die right now. I just went back and visited their website and I'm just like, all I have to do is look at the front page. That there's no life in it. There's no presence in it. We can look at the world right now, and there is a somewhat overt expression of what are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with this change? Are you going to feel the life force that's becoming something new? Or are you going to hold on to the past? Right now, we have an incredible upsurge in energy trying to force us to hold the past. Trying to force us to hold the past. Because they see that as a time when things worked. Now, typically what this is it's demographics that were successful in the past. The United States has this quiet, painful truth where we did something remarkable here. We largely erased racisms between white people. Now, that's no small victory. The Irish and the Italians and Jews and Spanish presence, Polish, Eastern Europeans of many ethnicities came to the United States, and we just said, everybody's white. That was a quiet victory, because at first they hated each other. At first it was a very big deal where you came from. At first it was extremely divisive to admit that you were this or this. You look at Europe, Europe plausibly has fought each other more than any other area of the world. For several thousand years, they've just been murdering each other relentlessly. To create a space where all those people could come together and be like, we're on the same team. That was a big deal. Here's the problem. It didn't work for anybody else. It came at the expense of a pretty rigid line around color, skin color. And it didn't fully work for Jews either. They were the most obscured, white peoples. When you can't extend the us, the concept of us, to the full rainbow, something's broken. But right now, my country is being taken over by a group of people who, bless their hearts, for real, I really mean this. To them, they're appealing to a time when things were better. Because on a very fundamental level, the 50s and 60s, there was economic stability. There was economic, it was much more accessible for people to get a house and just get a job and do their work. I don't think it fundamentally starts as divisive and racist. It just depended on divisiveness and racism. It was not a way of life that could extend to the world. Now, we're trying to create a way of life that can extend to the world. And when the patterns of stability break down in what has been, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Now, it doesn't feel good to live through it. Right now, there is more fear in the world than I think I've noticed. And I'm able to register internal, external. My personal energy, on a certain fundamental level, I'm tapping into the best energy I've ever experienced. I just had easily one of my best yoga practices yesterday, ecstatic level. Liberated, free. I'm like, holy, whoa. I'm tapping into some of the best energy of my life. And I can sense more fear in the world, the external world we share, the human consciousness of the current state of the world. Nuclear war, starvation, inflation that will induce starvation, economic loss of the job market, crime. You can tune in to thought forms that float. It's really how it works. Pranic thought forms that float through the air, and they just sweep through and they tap into any sliver of insecurity. It's really bad right now. And I'm expecting that this is true in many places all over the world, because the foundation pillars of what has felt normal, of what has enabled normal, are breaking. I don't think I could have had the courage to say, yep, got to break them. I am very aware that the devastation and pain that result from breaking these pillars is extreme. But I can trust that it's not my job to make that decision. It is my job to channel how I respond. Right now, there is a presence of an incredibly pure divine light. I am inviting you to trust it. It is here. It is not geographically limited. It might concentrate and rise in different regions of the world, but that's just because the earth herself is able to connect to us everywhere, but some people in the human world are more capable of receiving it. Be someone who is more capable of receiving it. Be someone who can receive and channel energy into the life around you. It does not start with overt action. The question is not, how do I run out into the world and change things? Because you don't even know what to do yet. When you reframe this as, how can you be a vessel for the new divine light? That's where you begin. And we get to know that the actions we take here, starting with working with the key ring, are a primary form to accept this crystalline light into ourselves. When you accept the crystalline light into yourself, it becomes very stark what is and is not yours. You want this. You need to want this. Please understand, again and again and again, I will tell you, we are living in a world that teaches us to compete over who is the darkness, who is the pain, who is the pain that I'm feeling. Everybody in a room feels pain, and we have been taught games that teach how to try to make somebody else lose. But the reality is every single person in the room has their own stagnant, stale, rotten energy. When you make the shift to say, I want to take full responsibility for my own rotten karma, boom, you're in a new category. That is the first step. It is, nothing else matters. All the other questions, they're bogus. They're bogus. They're just confusion. They're distraction until you make that step. And it's a drastic step. It means you won't fit in. It means you will manifest as crazy to a lot of people. We could talk about, we do talk about, we will talk about, we have talked about how to handle that. Right now, I'm just saying it's worth it. You make this step. Movies aren't going to work very well for you. TV shows aren't going to work very well for you. Sports isn't going to work very well for you. None of it really works well because they were all designed around these pain body dynamics. I'm not even saying they're bad. A lot of them were designed to temper more drastic fights. They play their place. But when you make this step to say, I want full responsibility for the lightning that moves through me, first of all, it's like, becomes a little relentless. Yes, I want to do this. Because after a little bit of experience, you start to get it. This is where you have the most power. This is your power. All these games where people are feeling pain and they're trying to blame somebody else. They're feeling pain. They're trying to dominate somebody else. They're feeling anxiety, so they're trying to win. All of these patterns, they're very, very weak. The maximum power you can achieve is weak. It's extraordinarily limited. It's what we call horizontal power, meaning you go out to the edge and you call that winning. You're on the edge of this little game. You're further away from everybody else. So you get to differentiate and say, I am the winner. They all wanted to win and I'm won. When you create stability in your consciousness out of that, it's not very stable. It's really weak because everybody can't win. It's like, it's very painful. Even when you win over one person, now you're just looking around for who's the next person to fight with. And then you win over that person. Now you're just looking around for you never get to be happy. The only reason all that shit ever made sense is because when you invest in those patterns, it helps temper the pain people feel inside. It helps you know what to do with the pain. You feel the pain, you have something to do. It creates clarity rather than just sort of lonely chaos. At great cost. At great cost. This is what is dying. This is what is dying. In those games, it's might makes right. It's might makes right. It says, give in to the greatest aggressor, the rapist, the abuser, the bully. Give in. Give in. But once you've given in, they have to hurt somebody else. The point is the cruelty. If they're not cruel, they won't be able to avoid their own pain. We have to change the game. You have to change the game. Now, how do you change the game without becoming it? Some of these characters are fond of this, like, to defeat a monster, you must become a monster, but channel it. This is a very low bar. I don't even want to say it's true. When you tune in to this crystalline light, you rest in it. You rest. It's a feeling. You learn to feel where your darkness is and where it isn't. Now, believe it or not, many of you probably don't know how to do this at all. When you don't put your attention on these things, you're riding on the surface of what's going on inside yourself. It's still happening, but you don't sense it as vividly. You just sense the repercussion of your painful energy surging in one way or another. And you also only sense the repercussion of positive energy. You just get the echoes. But we choose to stay in that relationship to ourselves, because once you tune in, when it hurts, it really fucking hurts. When you feel lonely, it is devastatingly lonely. And so there's a trade that happens where it's like, it's just too much pain. So people can't tune in. And because they can't tune in, they're operating on the surface of themselves. And because they're on the surface of themselves, it's almost impossible not to blame other people for what's going wrong. When you make this commitment to turn internally, you can let the world end. You can let it fall apart. It's not that it doesn't matter to me. I won't say I'm scared. If I am, I'll let you know. Right now, I just experience it like thought forms just washing by. I'm not going to hold them. Again, maybe there's something I won't be able to not hold. If the devastation reaches my door in a certain respect, if our finances go so awry, our housing gets under question, if we don't have enough food, like these things, I'm not immune to them. But that's not happening now. And what is happening now is that something is breaking down. Now, to me, I've always known that these forces are basically in charge. I traveled around and I watched how things really work in the world. Some of the worst forces have always been in charge. They've just been channeled. In, I think, as little as 50 years, it will be utterly absurd for us to revere men who just want more. I want you to stop and think about that. There's a temptation to identify with those at the top of these pyramids. But I really want to help shift your attention here. Paying attention to that particular measure of reality is a choice. You don't need to do it. Do you know what happens when you own a yacht? You have to take care of the yacht. You want to know what happens when you take care of a yacht? You really have to get people to live on the yacht, because there are so many different things to be concerned about. So now you have to take care of the people who take care of the yacht. You know what happens when you have to take care of the people who take care of the yacht? You have to create an income flow that keeps taking care of them. You want to know what happens when you have an income flow that keeps taking care of people that take care of your yacht and your estate and your this? And holy shit. Do you want to have to worry about those things all the time? It is an utterly paranoid existence, because so many things can go wrong and ruin it all, and the whole house of cards could fall down. I am not impressed. I'm not impressed. Not even remotely. In 50 years, these will not be our heroes. These will not be the people we think about. We won't think about them. They've hired someone right now to take over with this chaos monster approach. And what it does is it says, pay attention to this, pay attention to this, pay attention to this, pay attention to this, pay attention to this. It's controlling the narrative. You can change that. Every single one of you can change that right now. Every single one of you can change it today for yourself. When you experience anxiety about the world, return to the question, what is it for you to do? What is it for you? A lot of things are going wrong. A lot of things have always been going wrong. You know, the Mongols used to force whole cities to surrender. They'd negotiate surrender. They'd say, we will not shed any blood. They'd dig a giant pit and force everybody in and bury them. Like, humanity sucks. The Crusades, the Christian Crusades, they ate people. They went so insane, they ate people when they won. Humanity sucks. It has sucked throughout history, rhythmically terrible. Terrible. Now is our chance to end these patterns. Now is our chance to end these patterns. They weren't ended 20 years ago. We have been living in an economic détente. The earth has been giving us a chance, a window of calm, relative calm, by saying, take my body, make stupid shit with my body and trade it with each other. When you're anxious, buy something. Let it break, buy it again. You don't have any food, make this stupid thing, sell it to him. You don't have any food, make this stupid thing, sell it to them. Think about sex. Think about sex again. Look at these pretty people that you call pretty people. Watch them. Think about that. It's all her body. This is her body. Pretty people are her body. She's been teaching us to focus on the material. It's a beautiful trick. She's been teaching us to focus on the material. And when people think about the material enough, they become a little less violent. It's ironic, but true. It's a beautiful trick, but it's been a phase. And in this phase, we've gotten more grounded in the material. Now we have to ground in the spirit within the material. That's your job. That's your job. "12 pose chakra routine." I'm not going to say it this week. I told you I would do it like this. I'm not going to say it this week. The spirit within the material. The spirit within the material. This is what we're called to do. All of these, I do this every week, right? Again and again and again. What we're really trying to do is to help you shift from attention on the world, the human consciousness that's designed around how we interact with each other and understand ourselves in relation to each other, and then bring it in here. It's not an abstract idea. It's like, do it. Memorize that routine. The standing flower. There's a routine on Wild Chakra Yoga linked in the description. Essential standing flower. It's 12 poses. Now, what you can do is you can do it that fast, just a couple minutes. You could do that in a minute if you do it quickly, but I like to give it at least a full breath, even if it's a quick breath. That right there can detach you from an incredible proportion of the things that bother you. I really want you to understand like that. Now, sure, I want you to do longer yoga practices, but start with that. Get that memorized. It's the key ring. It's heart, crown, throat. Memorize the key ring and memorize that routine. Because when you do those routines, you can detach yourself from an incredible range of external influences. That doesn't resolve everything, but imagine your life. Just try this on. If you were to measure and catalog all the things that bother you, worry you, make you anxious, and I were to say a high proportion of 2/3 of these we can make disappear with that minute or two. So all you have to do is learn how to do that, and then do it when you feel anxious. Now that's work, but come on. Nobody doesn't have the time to do that. You can do this. The real threshold is to memorize it. Now you want to make the connection. Every time I feel anxious or worried about nuclear war, about losing my job, about where I'm going to live, about starving, you want to make the connection. That anxiety, I'm going to get up and do these 2 minutes. It's incredible how much worry you will make dissolve in your life. And then there are further steps. And those steps are what we teach. So you can sign up for the course. Sign up for the course. It takes that much deeper. And what you're doing is you're learning why that particular pattern is so powerful. It's not just that you're doing something, it's that you're doing that pattern. That pattern balances and tunes your energy and basically tunes you out of the world of worry. It tunes you out of it, puts you in a different place. You are literally moving your consciousness out of the pain body. Now, that doesn't mean you won't experience pain. The collective pain body is patterns of human interaction that are built on pain. So I can move through my life. I could wake up in the morning. Nobody's talking to me yet. I wake up. I assess all the different things going on in me. Do I act out of a loving inspiration or out of a painful inspiration? Today, I acted several times out of a painful inspiration, and I felt so ashamed of myself that I didn't feel like I could do this class. I yelled again because my children are fighting over ridiculous things, and I flipped out on them. Now, for this moment, it seems a little bit funny, so I'm going to tell you, but my daughter got the last of the date pieces. My son got a date. My daughter took a date, so she got more dates than him. So he started freaking out and screaming. So I took the jar of dates and I dumped the dates all over the table and yelled. And I yelled, "Fuck you," at a child. That part, it's killing me. I'm losing it. Like, I'm not living up to my own standards in this. And I can tell you why. I feel better than I've ever felt. And what they're doing is ruining it. I haven't gotten used to this new energy. It is so beautiful. And when it slips away, I freak out a little bit. I had a beautiful interaction with him. I went to him and I took some space and I went to him and I'm embarrassed to even apologize for swearing. I have not been able to manage my swearing at children. And I went to him and I said, "Help me understand." Because what I'm seeing is he's taking pleasure. He's literally taking pleasure when we're suffering. And he said, Daddy, inside, you're the only one in our family who can see energy. Look at what's happening inside me, because inside I'm trying to stop it. It's not the only thing I'm feeling. He's 8. That's really good advice. That's what I'm going to try to do. It feels good to share this with you and to say again, I was so ashamed of how poorly I handled myself this morning that I didn't feel justified in doing this, talking to you. Like, who the hell am I? And yet the message I get again and again and again is 20 more like me. Like, get up again, get up again, and get up again. I feel an incredible amount of compassion directed at me right now. Like, these energies are new. It is normal for it to be hard to stay centered in them. Yesterday, I had one of the most incredible yoga practices of my life. There was nothing fundamentally different about it. I just did a little bit of a better job. I didn't push past my edge on an even more subtle level than ever. I was this much more fluid. I did the sun surrenders, and I took an extra breath in up dog. So I really opened my chest beautifully, but there was nothing else fundamentally different. But I ended with I spent the rest of the day, and now, all the way till now, I'm just like, what is going on? This incredible balance within my body. It's so beautiful that when I lose it, I get really mad. But the message I'm getting is it's going to keep working like this. It's going to keep working like this. Just get better at it. Shift ourselves into this new incredible inspiration. Shift ourselves into this new beauty and trust it. Don't doubt the love because you fall from the love. Double down and stay in the love. I invite you to these. If you have not considered it, please consider joining us. Please consider staying present with us and learning yourself. Please consider that the world needs you right now. The world may need you in silence. You don't need to talk. You don't need to convince. You need to be this spirit. And you can do that with simple tools that we teach you and with the trust in each other that we develop. Thank you. Thank you for your donations. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for your presence. We're about to shift over to lightning sessions. So we're doing this time to teach how to apply. Teach how to apply the key ring on the next level. We do the key ring in the meditation. We do the key ring in a short yoga practice. We do the key ring in a long yoga practice. It's about going through the cycle of frequencies. And then I can do a session for you where I read your energy, and we're running more energy through you all at once from afar. So those who come, you can witness, you can just watch, or you can sit on the hot seat, and we'll see what the best we can do for you right now is. Go to the wildflowerfire.com sanctuary tab. There's a meeting. You join it. It's free. We do invite you to sign up for a membership. The membership can be your dues, your donation, your gratitude. That's $5 a week. Really? You can't do that? Come on. The commitment of it is minimal. The benefits are incredible. And we have a great community space. So as you sign up for a membership, you get this participation in our community. We're talking every day, supporting each other, sharing our progress, sharing our hopes, being witnessed, networking, sharing resources. More and more people have gone. 5 people are completing the training right now. We're set to do another training. There's a lot going on, and you're welcome to join us. So I'll see you soon in the meeting in the sanctuary. Thank you for being here through this different and hopefully beneficial time. I love you.